For the past 51 years, the small town of Sturgis, South Dakota is invaded by men and women on two wheels. This year, 80,000 bikers rolled into town on every kind of bike imaginable. In the coming minutes, you will see bikes and trikes of every description. These are the bikes of Sturgis, the outrageous and the beautiful. Each bike has its own story, whether it's old or new, custom or vintage. You can see anything in Sturgis. It's a biker's paradise, right in the middle of the United States. There's something about Sturgis that brings out every weird kind of bike and trike there is. How else can you explain bikes like these? But it's all in good fun. Let's take a walk around town and see what there is to see. I'm sure we'll see the wildest, weirdest, and the craziest.
What's your name?
Kirk Easterday.
And what exactly is John Deere?
What's that?
What's John Deere?
It's a tractor.
A tractor. What's this whole trailer business?
That's my grain cart.
Oh yeah? Is your favorite color green?
Yeah.
You know, green's a horny color.
Yeah.
You a horny guy?
Yeah.
Looking for some women?
You bet.
All right, you found any?
No.
What type women do you like?
One like you.
All right. This guy's got some great style. Hi, what's your name?
My name's Mel Bernstein.
And where you from?
Colorado Springs, Colorado.
What is the deal with this bike? How'd you come up with this? This is incredible.
This was made in 1966. It's I have it about 25 years now. And back in New York, where I was born and raised, everybody tried to be, you know, wilder than the next guy. And I came up with an idea like this. Yeah.
Oh wow. So does he actually shoot flames out of his mouth?
Yeah, when a bottle's filled, it's got a nitrous oxide injection system in the back of the tail. It's filled up with acetylene, and it holds 240 pounds of pressure. It makes the flames come out about 4 feet 6 inches.
Oh my God, that's great.
And the eyes light up too. Dragon Bikes by the Dragon Man.
Hi, what's your name?
Joe Dunning.
Hi, Joe. How you doing?
I'm fine.
How are you related to this bike?
I work for the fellow that owns it.
Can you tell me about how he came up with this, I guess, buffalo?
We needed a good mascot for Sturgis Harley-Davidson. He's the owner of Sturgis Harley-Davidson. And this turned out to be the best mascot we could get.
Well, there's many unusual bikes here, and this is probably one of the most unusual. Could you tell us about it?
Okay, it was built in 1981, and it's been here 11 years now. It has 76,000 miles on it, and it's a Harley front end, automatic transmission, Datsun 510 rear axle. Basically a stock Buick motor, homemade headers, because being that they only made the motor 3 years, you have to make a lot of parts yourself. The paint is candy apple red, or it was at one time. It's kind of faded to orange, but 11 years in the sun, you know.
You mean this is 11-year-old paint job?
Yes, sir.
And who painted this?
I did.
You painted this yourself?
Yes, sir.
How about these floorboards here?
Okay, all the wood is closet lining cedar that you would put in your closet, and the rubber parts are just flooring from a school bus. The windshield, everything's special made. You know, the body's not. The body's a 23T Roadster body.
How fast do you go in it?
Well, we cruise on the highway, legal speed limit 65 to 70.
What's your name?
Dog Bodine, and my partner's name is John Harrison.
This is a hot bike. I just want to know about it. Tell us all about this thing.
It's American Thunder Trike. We make them down in Tezuki, New Mexico. It's a big block Chevy 454, and it's balanced like you wouldn't believe, and you can steer it with your finger. A baby one at 90 miles an hour if it's a straightaway.
This is absolutely beautiful. Where do you get your chrome work done?
Especially out in Chromeworks in Albuquerque.
Anything you'd like to say to the world about Sturgis?
It's one heck of a party. I won't say no swear words just in case Grandma's listening.
Great, thank you very much.
All right, thank you.
Hi, what's your name?
My name is Locke David Crane. I'm from San Diego.
San Diego, California?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Why don't you tell me something about your bike?
Well, the Starship here took 6 years to construct. It cost $11,000 to begin with. After I drove it for 6 months, I had an accidental garage fire and burned it up, so I had to rebuild it. And there's a total of about $40,000 in it to this date. It's all stainless steel. It has a Honda front end, Harley-Davidson handlebars, and a Volkswagen engine, and it's all American built in San Diego.
It looks like it's going to take off.
Well, we have to start the engine first, but it doesn't. It really doesn't get much more than about this high as far as altitude. It's a lot of fun to drive, though.
And what do you do?
I'm an English teacher at National University, and I'm also a candidate for mayor of San Diego in 1992. Thanks. Live long and prosper.
Hi, what's your name?
Chattanooga Charlie.
Chattanooga, you must be from Chattanooga, Tennessee.
That's right.
Well, Chattanooga Charlie, you got a lot of explaining to do here.
Well,
we want to know all about this thing.
Well, it's a little bit of everything. It's 42 forward hood and 50 model forward rear fenders and 76 Oldsmobile engine and transmission and just parts and pieces of a little bit of this and that, you know.
Did you design it yourself?
Oh yeah, yeah.
And did you have the parts made somewhere or what?
Well, I used the old Ford parts that I found and then just made the pieces up from a sheet metal company there in Chattanooga.
You wouldn't put this in the category of a rat bite, would you?
Well, I don't care, you know. It gets you there and back, that's all that really matters.
What's the inside look like?
Well, it's just the normal handbrake. I got a handbrake because I can't work my feet.
Is there anything in there special that we should know about?
Well, nothing but maybe them pacifiers right there.
The pacifiers?
Yeah, the little boobs that hang in there.
You must have a girl's name for it.
Well, yeah, I guess, but I've been not called those names because I'm liable to miss one, and if I did, well, you know, that way nobody going to get slighted if I
You
don't
mean
miss
you've named it after all your girlfriends?
Oh, yeah.
What's your names?
Richard Veldman and Betty Veldman.
Are you guys enjoying yourselves here at Sturgis?
Yes, we are.
This is a gorgeous bike. Can you tell me something about it?
It's a 82 Harley front end. It's a V6 Chevrolet engine. The transmission is a 350 turbo with a Buick Skylark rear end.
I want to know how fast it goes.
Just as fast as you want to.
What's the fastest you've taken it?
Pardon?
What's the fastest you've gone?
I went 100 miles an hour with it.
Thank you very much for speaking with me.
Thank you.
Enjoy yourselves. All right, what's your name?
Camilo?
Camilo. Having a good time here?
Pretty good.
This is a beautiful bike. You want to tell me something about it?
Sure. Originally it was a 49 61 cubic inch. It's been stretched and raked, modified pretty much. Lower end is a 65 pan with a 73 shovel top end. It's stroked out 86 cubic inch. Andrews first, second, you know, highway gears. It gets up and moves. This it's a California bike.
You're a California man?
That's right.
You can't fit a woman on here, I noticed.
I got a P-pad that it works on Velcro for easy on, easy off. And when I want to ride the bitch, excuse my language, but you know, hey, that's when I ride her. This back here is a bitch bar. That's what it's for. And then I just hook up my pegs. On either side here, I carry my pegs in my tool pouch or whatever, wrap the P-pad on there, you know, and it's there.
Hi, what's your name?
My name's Rondo. I'm from Atlanta, Texas.
Atlanta, Texas. Okay, tell us about it.
It's a knucklehead. Harley-Davidson made knuckleheads from 1936 to 1947. This one's been modified quite a bit. It's no longer 61 cubic inches.
There's a nice shirt there from the two.
It's now 93 cubic inches. It's accomplished by boring and stroking the engine. We're running disc brakes front and rear, which weren't standard on any of the Harley-Davidsons until 70s, 80s. Some of the other things we're running on this engine, we're running a late model oil pump here. Provides more oil, better oil pressure. We're running belt drives on the transmission and the primary, which wasn't standard on Harley-Davidsons until the 80s. I mentioned the ground clearance. Most of these older bikes sat a lot lower, and it didn't seem to be a problem for them back in the 40s and 50s, and I haven't found it to be too much of a problem in this day and age. the motorcycle doesn't have any rear suspension, so the only spring suspension you've got is what's under the rear seat there, and then your traditional Springer front end. But it's got all the modernizations that I wanted in a motorcycle, but it's got the look and the style of an old bike.
Hi, what's your name?
I'm John T. McKenna.
Hi, John. Where are you from?
I'm from New York.
Why don't you tell us about this bike?
Okay. It's a 1942 Harley Davidson. It's a WLA. It was made special for the United States Army. Prior to 42, they used a civilian model that didn't hold up. So this is a beefed up, this is a heavy machine, a heavy duty machine, yes.
And do you ride it now?
Oh, I do, yeah. It's registered, licensed, insured. Yeah, it's street-worthy, sure.
What's this bar?
That's a wire cutter. That would cut a piece of piano wire that was left for you, or friendly wire could be on the across the road. Could be your friendly or enemy wire. Yes. Yeah.
Are there any special parts on this bike that would be used in war or in combat?
The whole thing was for war. It's got blackout lights. It's got a snorkel. First off, the man will be armed with a Thompson submachine gun. Also, the man was armed with a Colt 45 pistol, which I have right here. It has any number of beer bottle openers built into it. You can uncap a beer there, in the receiver.
It's good to know.
Or in the slide. It was just handy for that. Now, on the bike itself, the engine is a WL, which was a proven engine with Harley. They used it for racing. It was a very dependable engine, starting, running, serviceability, etc.
How fast would it go if you needed it to?
It's cautioned at 65, but I like it better around 55, 56 and through there.
Thank you very much. I appreciate the time you spent showing us the bike. Hi, what's your name?
Huey.
And you're the manufacturer of this bike?
Right. I own Performance Engineering in Cleveland, Ohio.
What was your goal for this bike when you started to build it?
Well, it's basically been made for a street racer class. Okay, it's a street ridden bike. It's 93 cubic inches. It started out as a 76 shovel head. The frame was manufactured by a gentleman named Tommy McGrew, okay, who builds frames for our shop. Okay, the side panels are all handmade out of aluminum, as is the fender. The exhaust pipes are made out of stainless steel, 2-inch. Okay, those were all manufactured in shop by Chris from Permapipe. The rocker boxes are handmade. Pretty much the handlebars, the front end, the triple trees are all made in shop. It's a dual magneto setup made by Morris Magneto, sold through Avera, and the Weber carburetor system is also an aftermarket item available through Avera Engineering. The wheels here are made by Padded Performance Machine, specifically for this motorcycle. It's got an air shift nitrous oxide.
And what inspired you to get into this line of work?
Oh, I started when I was 14. I was lucky enough to be around older guys that were into motorcycling, and they just kind of led me astray, and I've been astray ever since.
Hi, what's your name?
John Vandergriff.
And where are you from?
Tucson, Arizona.
What are you doing here in Sturgis?
Showing the bike.
Hi, what's your name?
Remington Vandergriff.
Are you going to be a biker when you get big?
Yeah.
Why don't you tell me something about your bike?
Well, basically it's a 1978. The engine has been bored and stroked to 86 inches to pull the extra weight of the sidecar. The extras, I guess, would be it has a foot clutch and a hand shift rather than the normal, which is the opposite. That performance machine brakes on the front end of it. A little more stopping power for the extra weight of the sidecar. And custom paint, custom upholstery. And that's about all there is.
Did you design the paint yourself, the paint job yourself?
Yeah, I didn't paint it myself, but I did lay out the stripes
Uh-huh.
and the flames and stuff, and then the painter went with mine. Same way with the upholstery. I made the pattern, he cut the upholstery for me.
Do you consider yourself a weekend biker, or are you full-time?
Not really. I own a shop, so
Uh-huh.
I live the life pretty well.
This is the most outrageous bike I think I've ever seen. Very attractive yellow color, as you can see. Standard seats. Now, you move up here a little bit, and you can fit another man. But wait, there's more. Yet another man can sit here. You may think it's ending now, but this is only the beginning. As you'll see here, now you can already fit 1, 2, 3, 4. This is the 5th person you can fit, okay? But this is a limousine motorcycle, I guess you could say. Here can sit another person, and finally you have the front seat. This just means a girl like me can fit about 7 or 8 of her best men.
Not everything is wild in Sturgis. Right in the middle of all the Main Street madness was a serious auction of vintage motorcycles. Road racers, dirt trackers, choppers, sidecars, and more. Armakis, Vincent, Indian, and of course, Harley Davidson were represented. Some of the bikes are customized. Some are meticulously restored. And some have a long way to go. But they're all for sale. Just put your money down and ride one home.
Hi, what's your name?
My name is Ron Christensen.
And Ron, you run the auction here, is that correct?
I do run ACS International Motorcycle Auction Company, correct.
Can I ask you what the most expensive bike has gone for?
The most expensive that we have sold at auction has been $39,000.
And what about what's the oldest bike you've sold?
The oldest bike was a 1904 Yale, and that was made in the United States.
What's the most interesting thing that's happened at one of your auctions?
The most interesting things that happen at auctions is mostly when an individual brings a motorcycle in that he's owned like 80 years. It's just a real enjoyable experience to see these bikes transfer from one lover to another. It's great.
What's your name?
Charlie Olds.
Charlie, this is a simplex. What year is it?
Well, we both think it is around 1919. We're not certain. I got it out of a museum, and they didn't know for sure. The museum closed down about 15 years ago.
Have you ever ridden it?
Yes, I have.
And how fast will it go?
35 to 40.
Really?
Yeah.
Where do you ride it to?
In parades.
Parade. Are you staying here in Sturgis?
Yeah.
Having a good time?
Oh, you betcha.
Tell me something about this bike.
Well, Krista, this is not as rare a bike as you might think, but this particular model is quite rare. This is a 175cc Armaki, made in Italy. The Armaki factory for about 4 or 5 years was owned by Harley Davidson, and then later on Harley sold it off. During the time that Harley owned the Armaki factory, they brought quite a few thousand of the 250 and 350cc bikes of the same make into the United States. However, these 175s never made it to the U.S. A lot of them went to South America. And this bike was raced very successfully in South America. It's been totally and completely restored, and it is a beautiful motorcycle and very, very collectible because it's very rare in the U.S. But parts are available for the bike, so it's not an investment in, futility as far as just a trophy. It's ready to race. A guy could take it out and run it in an old vintage race if he wanted to.
Hi, what's your name?
Jerry Evans.
And you're the owner of this groovy bike.
That's correct. The second owner.
Oh, the second owner. What year is it?
1968.
What's the deal with the peace sign and the keg and the rear view mirror, all the funky 60s things on here?
Well, it was built in 1968 as a new motorcycle. It was never driven on the street with the stock parts. It was all carried to a chopper shop and built from there, and it's just the way it was built in 1968.
So did you actually cruise this Peace Mobile around?
I've ridden this one around, yes.
You hear a lot of comments about it?
Quite a few, yeah. It doesn't quite match today's chopper standards, but that's the way it was. Virtually everything is hand-built on this one. You didn't buy anything in those days. The sissy bars were hand-built. The peace sign in the back is actually gold-plated. Pretty unusual for its time.
Very unusual. What about the rear view mirror?
Yeah, that was a pretty standard chopper mirror in the late 60s. The tank on the back is actually a reserve tank, so they could get a little more highway miles.
Hi, what's your name?
Paul Chastain.
Paul, what year is this bike here?
This is a 1942 Indian 4.
And is it true that that's exactly what this bike used to look like?
Very close, very close.
And you restored the whole bike, is that correct?
That's correct.
How long did it take you to get it in such great condition?
Well, it's not the time wrenching on it. It's time waiting on parts to be finished, the painting, machine work, things like that.
About how many years would you say it took to get the thing complete in its entire, like today?
1 year. Yeah.
And may I ask you how much it's going for?
The reserve on it is 30 grand.
Since I'm on your bike, can I get your name?
I'm David Monahan from Minneapolis, St. Paul, Minnesota.
Why don't you tell me something about this motorcycle?
This is a 1965 Harley-Davidson Electra Glide. It's the last year for the panhead engine design that ran from 1948 until it's finished in 65. The unique thing about this machine is that it is the first year for the electric start from Harley-Davidson. They didn't figure out that the American public wanted electric start until 1965. This was originally built as a sidecar rig. It's got all the sidecar attachments, proper headlamp and rake tree arrangement to make it go down the road straight and make it a very roadable machine.
How fast does it go?
Oh, I drive it typically about 70 on the freeway. 70 miles an hour is a real comfortable speed for this. Sidecars typically have one speed where they tend to shake a little bit, and you try to adjust that out of the machine so that you're not experiencing that at any speed that you'd normally want to be driving at over maybe 20 miles an hour.
Hi, Krista. I'm Al Mark.
How you doing today?
Pretty good.
Why don't you tell me something about your bike here?
What would you like to know about it?
I'd like to know what year it is.
1948 Vincent HRD. It's a very rare motorcycle. The company started production originally about 1924, and they went out of business in 1955. They were made in England. They are the most prestigious motorcycle in the world. This is the Rolls-Royce of motorcycles. It's the most collectible motorcycle in the world today because the prices for these bikes is still in the reasonable range. That is, what you have to pay to buy one is what they're worth, the fair market value. So these are the best buy in the whole auction.
A few minutes ago you told me that you were not going to ride Harleys because of the brakes and because you broke your leg. Well, what I'm interested in is, how exactly did you break your leg?
Well, as long as the incident is over, that'll be 40 years old next year, I was trying to outrun the cops. I was a young, hot-headed kid that didn't know any better, and I'm riding a 65-mile-an-hour motorcycle, and they had a 95-mile-an-hour V8 flathead Ford car with an 85-horse engine, and there was just no way I could get away from them. And I finally came out of an alley and broadsided a car and went over the handlebars. I realized it was my fault. I let those cops spook me. I never should have. And I told myself, don't ever be that stupid again, and I never was, and I've never hit anything since. And I've been riding motorcycles 49 years this year.
And you've never ran from the cops since either?
Oh yeah, I outrun cops, but I bought those Vincents, and I did it with something that was 25 miles an hour faster than their cars were. I never tried to outrun them without the horsepower again.
Now we come to the builders of the most exclusive and expensive Harleys in the world, the Hamsters. These are the premier bikes of Sturgis, hand-built from the ground up. These guys separate true style from mere fashion and fad, and they do it by good customizing. The builders of these bikes are true artists in every sense of the word.
What's your name?
Donnie Smith.
Where are you from?
Brooklyn Park, Minnesota.
I understand you're one of the premier bike builders in the States.
Well, I build a lot of bikes.
Who are the influences in your style?
Every area has their own. I guess in my area, I'm probably the influence in my area, and there's people like Arlen's big in California, and Dave Perwitz is big on the East Coast, and every area seems to have their own. So, we all look at each other's stuff and kind of pick the best of it and refine and do it a little different and pick out your own things.
How'd you get into it in the first place?
I guess, I don't know, I just didn't like my bike looking like everybody else's, so I just started changing it, and then pretty soon people started coming to me to do it. I was always ahead of everybody in my area. I always felt I was. I tried to be. That was my goal, and just designing and you know, we had a product line that we took, you know, and went nationwide and did very well with it, and I guess that's where it all comes from.
What would you have to say to a young guy who wants to build a bike and he hasn't done it before? What would your advice be for him?
Have a lot of money. Bikes like this are, you know, talking like 20, 30 grand to build a bike. Like, I mean, it didn't cost me that because I make everything, you know, but if I had to make it for you, it would cost that. But they can do a lot with what is available from people like Arlen and Drag Specialties and people like that. Well, I designed the frame myself, and I made the gas tank as out of like 4 other gas tanks. You know, like a pair of 3.5 fat bobs and a pair of 45 tanks that I sectioned up and put together. The rear fender started out as a front fender on like an FLH, and I cut out 2 inches out of the middle and put 3 inches in to get it a flatter profile to it.
What internal modifications have you done to the engine?
Well, it has a dual magnetos, which you can see, and it's an 80-inch with a crane cam, and there's just some head work done to it and balanced, and you know, just the motor's basically, you know, stock cubic inches, solid lifters.
So now, most of the work you did in your own shop?
Yes.
Hi, what's your name?
Gary Franta.
Hi, Gary. How you doing today?
Just fine.
Can you tell me about this bike?
What would you like to know?
I'd like to know pretty much everything. What you've done to the engine, your chrome work, the paint job, pretty much the whole thing.
Well, it started out as an FXR 1986 vintage. One of the things I tried to do here was make it as clean as possible, hide the wires as best I could, fabricated an ignition switch on the other side that hides the coil and ran all the wires into it. And all the Allen heads have been, the knurl's been polished off and plated. Just about everything on there is either polished billet aluminum or chrome. The air cleaner was made out of a chunk of aluminum and machined to sort of match the fins on the motor. Hopefully it does that. It's sort of an eye catcher, kind of a one-of-a-kind item. Well, this is a set of collector pipes that I've modified sort of my own look, just to be a little different. The paint, I had a guy do it he's out of the Bay Area, a guy named Horst, does an excellent job of painting.
Draw a lot of attention with this bike?
Yeah, it gets a lot of attention. Sure does.
Hi, what's your name?
Bob Walters.
And you're also a member of the Hamsters.
Yes, I am.
Tell me something about the bike. What I want to know is basically what your goal was with the bike.
Well, the goal was to try to get a supercharger to look nice and run all at the same time, I would think. And there's been several applications. You just try to make it a little bit different, you know, for the looks and the ability to run with a supercharger. The supercharger, it's a KF supercharger out of California. And our biggest problem in mounting this particular unit was the engine's a rubber mount, so the supercharger cannot be hooked to the frame in any way. It's got to be able to move with the engine. So there was a lot of engineering and mounts, and for the front of the engine for it, it had to be cut down and remachined. The induction system, the mounting of the carburetors, everything was all handmade. There was no bought-in parts except for the carburetors and the blower.
What is this supercharger actually designed for?
That was actually designed for a 4-cylinder car. I would expect that it was designed for a car to run like the Baja Rays.
Did you have to make any modifications to it to make it work with the Harley?
Oh, absolutely. It had to be, the drive had to be all remachined and fitted, and just nothing fits. Everything had to be made over.
What kind of problems did you encounter with the frame fabrication to accommodate the supercharger?
We didn't change the frame at all. We actually worked the supercharger around the frame. That's an Arlen Ness frame on that bike, and it worked very well for our application.
What's your name?
Dave Perowitz.
Where are you from?
Brockton, Massachusetts.
How long you been a hamster?
Since day one.
You're one of the founding fathers.
Yeah, one of the founding fathers.
I can understand you're the premier bike builder on the East Coast.
Well, build a lot of bikes, that's for sure. I don't know about the premier, but yeah, we do a lot of bikes. My shop is Cycle Fabrications in Brockton, Mass.
What can you tell us about the engine modifications to this bike?
Well, basically it's a 1983 shovel head, 80 cubic inch, and what I did when I got the bike, I tore the top end off and did the top end, pistons, rings, valves, and guides, and just cleaned everything up. And I put a mild cam in it, and that's about it.
And how about the pipes?
The pipes were made by one of the guys that works for me, Brad Lovely, and it looks a little different. Extremely loud.
Okay, who did the paint work on this bike?
I did most all of the paint work except for the striping and the Harley on the tank. Roy Mason did that. He's one of the best that there is. Red is basically my favorite color, and red is the best-selling color. And then to get something bright in there to make it stand out, we threw a little of that pink neon and toned it down a little, and it's a good eye catcher.
Now the wheel and brake assemblies, these are just stock?
Yeah, these wheels are basically stock FXR wheels, and we polish the outer edge and paint the centers, and then the front rotors are stainless steel, and they're polished, and the rear rotor is just a stock Harley rotor that's been polished. The calipers, the brake calipers are just painted black urethane, and the front brake calipers have those little anodized engraved inserts in them. My gas cap, that's my hamster gas cap. See, I like to have something that says hamsters on the bike, but I sell them so quick that I can't paint it on anymore.
Okay, now a lot of the people going to watch this video might want to build a custom bike, but they've never done it. So what kind of advice have you got for a 16-year-old kid who wants to build his own?
Well, you know, it looks easy, and, you know, you can look at some bikes and they don't look like they would be an expensive venture, but one thing leads to another, and you can always figure on about 5 times more than cost-wise than you figure.
Hi, what's your name?
I'm Dave Bell from Lansing, Michigan.
And you're a hamster as well.
Yeah.
Tell me about your bike.
Okay, the pipes are Arlen Ness, along with the fairing, which is kind of characteristic of the hamster bike. The front fender and rear fender and the side covers are also Arlen's, along with the handlebars. Probably the thing that makes this bike unique is the stretch in the frame and the gas tank. The rake is 35 degrees, so it's stretched out pretty good. It's probably got an 8-inch longer wheelbase than a stock lowrider.
How'd you go about stretching it? Where'd you cut?
Bob Walters did all the framework and the tank work. From the front of the lower part of the frame, the tubes were cut off completely. Under the gas tank, it was sectioned and 3 inches added. So that puts your steering neck forward, along with the accentuated rake, adds about 8 inches to the wheelbase. And the gas tank had to be lengthened and streamlined to accommodate the extra length in the frame.
What about the engine? What have you done to the engine?
Well, the engine's balanced blueprinted 100-inch Harley-Davidson motor with S&S lower end. We're running a Line Weber cam, adjustable push rods. Try to keep it pretty much Harley and yet pump it up as much as we could.
Anything else you'd like to point out on this bike?
Well, the spokes on the front wheel are all stainless steel twisted.
Mm-hmm.
They glitter pretty good going down the road.
Because of the twist.
Yeah, it acts like a strobe light.
Hi, what's your name?
Corey Ness.
How you doing, Corey?
Great.
Why don't you tell me something about your bike?
Okay, well, it started out as a 91 Harley-Davidson FX RT, which is like a touring bike. It has a big fairing and stereo. And
what about the chrome work?
The pipes on this bike are a 2-in-1 collector that we make. It's available from Arlen Ness. The wheels were some custom chrome. They were just solid aluminum wheels. I went ahead and put them on a CNC mill, whatever, and made a special cutout pattern, a little different from everybody else's. As far as the front fender and the side covers and the rear fender are all available from Arlen Ness. The gas tank was just an aftermarket tank that's available that we cut up and stretched it and to go along with the frame. We cut off the whole front section of the frame and we added like five inches worth of stretch, and we put a like 36-degree rake in it. That's why the bike appears so long. This particular bike usually comes with a narrow glide front end, and we went ahead and used some of our aluminum triple trees and made it into a wide glide front end, it's called.
What about the paint design?
The paint is just, I wanted some somewhat flashy graphics, whatever, and picked out a few colors. A guy named Jeff McCann, who's been doing some paint work for us for 15 years, he laid them on there for me. The changes of the wheels and brakes and stretching the frame kind of gives it a look by itself.
Tell us about the motor in this bike, Al.
Well, it's a 1340 Evolution. It's a 1986 motor. I built the whole bike from scratch, but I added a supercharger to it. And it's got a SU eliminator carburetor. And as you can see, it's belt driven off the motor on the left side here.
Why did you settle on this drive system?
Well, that's basically, you know, the best way to do it, I think. The exhaust is originally started out a Bub made in California, and I modified it a little bit. And presently I have my baffles out.
Yeah, and you, and what did that get you today?
It got me a warning ticket today by South Dakota's finest.
What else would you like to talk about on the bike?
It's a Arlen Ness frame, and I used 21-inch front wheel, 18-inch rear, aluminum wheels.
Tell us about the engraving. Who did that for you?
I have a local guy in right near Janesville, where my shop is, that does the engraving, and his name is John Bittner. He's pretty good. The whole, all the black stuff, except for like the frame and the gas tank and the fenders, is black powder coating, which I don't know if you're familiar with it or not, but it's a technique where it's charged with electricity, and they spray like a powder substance on it, and it comes in different colors. And what it does, when they send it through an oven, it kind of flows out into whatever color is sprayed on, and it's a real durable paint. Now, this bike was built in 1987. I finished it just before Daytona, Bike Week at Daytona, and in March, and I won the Harley show there with the bike.
Well, what's your name?
My name's Joe Procopio.
Where are you from, Joe?
Boston area, Woburn it's called.
Woburn?
Woburn, Mass, right.
I understand you do specialize in engine work.
Oh, yeah, I do a little bit of work. My specialty is head work.
Okay, now maybe we better talk a little bit about your bike here. What kind of style you wanted and why?
Well, this is a 1988 FXR, and I had Dave rake the front end 12 degrees on it, and on this tank he chopped everything off the top and kind of sliced that all down and molded that in. Also, the pipes were custom made. They start out as bubs like David's did, and he took like 5 to 6 inches off the pipes and modified them. The rear fender is a late model Sportster, molded. The Sportster taillight's been molded into the back.
Who did the paint?
Dave Perowitz, Cycle Fabrication, did all the paint, and Roy Mason did the graphic work for it. The wheels, we taped them all off, and the edges and in the middle were aluminum. We had them all plated, and then taped everything off, and David painted them also plumb to match the rest of the bike. Pretty much, we built this so it would be more of a rider than my other bike. You know, I could have fun with this, even though I'm like an old woman. You know, I take 3 hours to clean it and ride it for half an hour, you know?
Now, do your parents know you're a hamster?
Oh, do they ever? Sure do. Yeah. They know it. They're proud of their son being a hamster.
How did you become the godfather of the hamsters?
Oh, not really a godfather. Hamsters are just a bunch of friends.
Well, that's what they call you.
No, just because I've been around a long time, I guess.
You are probably the most influential designer of Harleys in the world. How do you feel about that?
If it's true, it feels pretty good.
What's your lifestyle like?
Around motorcycles, that's my livelihood, and it's kind of like don't really have a job. Just fortunate to do something you like and make a living and meet people and go on motorcycle rallies. And it's good times.
So you love what you do?
You bet.
How long have you been doing it?
Oh, I've been in business now 20 years.
Can you tell me something about this bike?
This is a new soft tail that's fenders have been changed and the paint and a lot of handmade parts and a lot of chrome and just kind of dolled it up, I guess you'd say.
If you were to sell this bike, how much would it go for?
Oh, probably something like this being a new bike and with all the chrome and everything, the value would probably be about $30,000. The fenders have been changed, and the gas tank has been narrowed and the fairing added. The bike is completely taken apart. Frame has been molded and painted. Then the motor and the transmission and all that is completely disassembled and polished and chromed and custom-made pegs and seats, and it's a pretty fancy bike.
What else should we talk about on this bike?
It has a lot of hand machine parts, like the triple clamps and the handlebar clamp, and the wheels are kind of different. They're 18-inch wheels, which you don't see very often, front and rear.
How many countries do your customers come from?
Everywhere, you name it.
Name some of the countries you have customers from.
Japan, Australia, England, just almost everywhere. France, a lot of French.
How does it feel to be you're the primary influence for bike builders. I mean, the premier bikes in the world. How does it feel to be in that position?
Yeah, it feels pretty neat. The nice thing about it is you can make a living doing something you like.
Sturgis attracts bikers and bikes from all over the world. And appearances don't matter much when you come to the rally. What matters is motorcycles. After all, there were 80,000 bikes rolling around the Black Hills. For 1 week in August, you could see the best bikes there were to see.